Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes alike. I am the West Virginia woman, Robin Holstein of RobinHolstein.com and Holstein House, where my guests get a good night's sleep at a fair rate plus breakfast. I've been keeping house since I was 17 years old, balancing the budget and paying the bills as an Army wife on the salary of a PFC stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, and as a single mother of two back home in West Virginia. Things have changed a lot since then, but I haven't forgotten what it was like. This podcast looks at society and cultural issues affecting families in West Virginia and in the United States. From food preparation and storage, gardening, home repairs, current events, and more, we'll go round the table and back in 60 minutes or less. So let's hang out and talk a while. Well, let's see. I am working with a different microphone headset, and I had some trouble getting it set up, so hopefully this will work just fine. Well, good evening, kids. It's me again, Margaret. Episode 12, Post-Turkey Day Edition. Well, I guess if it's an episode, it's an edition. Okay, anyway. This is episode 12 of the Holstein House podcast. It's premiering on the Fountain Network. If you found me on Fountain, I hope you'll boost, clip, and share with all your friends and followers. If I bring you value, I hope you will give me value in return. And that can be anything. It's from a belly laugh to a big out loud eye roll to a groan to who knows what. Now, let's get on with this. Has the stupid always been there and we didn't know? Or is it growing because we have 24/7 news? That's a question I posed to my dad the other day when he was here. Actually, it was Thanksgiving Day, but he came over early to have his blood work done. He actually had confused the days, which gives me some concern because not only was it Thanksgiving Day, it was Thursday. And when he came over, he said, "Is this not Friday?" So the idea that Thanksgiving was happening seemed to not register. I don't know at what point to get worried. I missed a lot of signs with my mom because I thought what I was seeing with my own two eyes was not exactly what I was seeing. And I don't want to do that with Dad. But then again, you see this and you think, "Oh, that can't be it." And yeah, that might be it. But anyway, so we were talking about what was going on just in general in the news. And I said, "Dad, I just don't know. Has it always been this stupid and we just didn't know until we got 24/7 news coverage on the cable TV? Or is it growing because we now have 24/7 news coverage and big dummies want to get on the news?" I don't know. He said he didn't know either, so I was looking at some online news for my area. And you know, one of the things I talk about is the culture, society and cultural issues for West Virginia and the United States. But there was a story and I saw it and it just blew my brains because it made a comment about if you have two kids 2 years apart and they cannot start public school until they're 5, you're looking at paying for 7 years of very expensive child care, not to mention the summers and breaks. That feels impossible for many Americans with working parents. So if the government can't have your kid by the age of 5, your state is a bad state to have kids in. That's what a study on the best and worst states to have a kid in says. And it's a Wallet Hub study. Now, I've never heard of Wallet Hubs. I don't know. They may just be some fringe group of people, drawing down government grants to pay salaries and stuff so that they can say, hey, we're legit, when they're not. If you have 2 kids 2 years apart and they cannot start public school until they're 5, you're looking at paying for 7 years of very expensive child care, not to mention summers and breaks. Some guy named Scuba, S-C-I-U-B-B-A, Scuba said, that feels impossible for many Americans with working parents. Okay, then we've got this, many Americans with working parents. Are they talking about the kids? Many Americans with working parents. And are they saying that the kids are Americans and their parents are not? Who are these parents? Are they upper middle class? Upper middle income? Are they upper income? Are they low income? Because the answers to that question would tell us a lot about this survey. Low income families get substantial government financial assistance for child care. I mean substantial. Now, I didn't have it for my kids. I had a couple of different things going on with my kids. I was a stay-home mom for a long time until I got divorced. And we started through the divorce process. Then I had to go get a legitimate job. I mean, he paid child support. I have to admit, he paid it like he was supposed to. But that wasn't enough, to keep the lights on. I mean, I had to also work, or I'd had to go on welfare. Well, I wasn't about to go on welfare, so I started working through temporary agencies. And we've had that conversation before about one of the places I worked, the director of the agency, told me to my face they thought temporary agencies should be outlawed. But at any rate, I started working with temporary agencies, and I had a combination of my mom kept my kids for a while, there was a daycare that kept my kids for a while, and then my niece kept my kids for a while. So I kind of rotated through until the kids got old enough to just stay home, and then, but they were going to school. I mean, my boys were already in school when their dad and I started divorce process. And so, it was after school, preschool on occasion, and after school care is what they mostly needed. So I didn't file for any government assistance program, but my niece, with her children, she did. She was a single mom from the get-go. The father of her first child, her daughter, spent a lot of time incarcerated, so there was no money coming in there. The father of her son committed suicide when the boy was about a year old or so. I think maybe 18 months old. And the father had that, was it schizophrenia? That's really bad. It really gets worse when they start hitting puberty and stuff, so. But she was on government assistance with the kids, and she reached that spot where it was, if she earned more money, she would lose her child care benefits. So she had to ride this line of, I do want to better myself, but the chunk that the government would take back would cause me to have less money than what she had before. So, like, let's say, just for round numbers, let's say she made $100, and that kept her qualified for child care. But if she made $120, she would lose her child care, which then would cause her to have to pay for it, which you expect. I mean, I'm not saying she shouldn't have to pay for it, but what it would do, it would force her to live off of $75. So she would actually go backwards. She would go in the hole drastically. So the incentive to do better was stripped away by the fact that she loses the child care, and she can no longer afford to feed her kids if she's having to pay for her child care. But that wasn't a state issue, though. Anyway, wait a minute. Let's see, where was I? Oh, a link to the study was not provided. Okay, so I saw this study online. It was one of the news stations that had linked to the study. It wasn't an obvious link. I had to hunt around and find it because it wasn't colored. So you didn't know. I mean, it was black text, not underlined. It wasn't blue or anything, so you didn't know until you hovered the mouse over it when you found the link to the study. But in order to determine the best and worst states to have a baby, Wallet Hub compared 50 states and the District of Columbia across 4 key dimensions: cost, health care, baby friendliness, and family friendliness. Baby friendliness? Baby friendliness. A percentage of residents who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. So in this study, they got double the weight, approximately 4.38 points. So if your state had based on the percentage of residents who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. So these are the things that qualified as a baby-friendly state. The percentage of residents who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Share of children with all 7 recommended, Lord, it's late, I can't hardly talk, recommended vaccines. Rate of postpartum depression. Mom groups per capita. And then they had a disclaimer. Oops, they went back and fixed on August the 8th at 8 p.m. we corrected the percentage of residents who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 metric, which changed the rankings. Instead of the smallest percentage awarding more points, the largest percentage now leads to a better score. So they didn't get the score they wanted, so they went back and changed it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. These are some subjective metrics, I think. I mean, if I'm one of those parents who doesn't believe in the failed preventative treatment that might lead to cardiomyopathy, what happens? That means my state is not friendly to babies? Or if I don't believe in the broad vaccination program the government forces on infants and children? Now, in full disclosure, my kids had all their shots. They didn't have them exactly the day that the government wanted them to, because my younger son was premature and was therefore physically, emotionally, and developmentally behind about 10 months or so, 18 if you count all these different hospitalizations and stuff. So when they said, oh, well, he's 2 years old, he has to have this shot. No, actually, he's not exactly 2 years old. He was born early, so he would only be chronologically 18 months old. And because each week he spent in the hospital, he fell further and further behind developmentally and everything. So now actually he's like a year old. So, oh no, you gotta have these shots. I mean, I went rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds with the Board of Education, nurses and stuff. I mean, it got ugly a couple of times. They threatened to put him out of school, and I said, go ahead. His pediatrician says he's not to have this shot yet. I don't care what you say. So, anyway. So if you have a substantial number of families in a state that feel that the big shot that leads to cardiomyopathy isn't for their kid, suddenly that state is not kid-friendly? And exactly how does postpartum depression figure in here? What does the state do to cause postpartum depression? Are they trying to infer that postpartum depression is caused by environmental inputs and not chemical imbalance? Because the Mayo Clinic says there's no single cause of postpartum depression, but genetics, physical changes, and emotional issues may play a role. Genetics, postpartum depression, physical changes, emotional issues. And the Office of Women's Health, which is a federal government, which I'd never heard of before now, says hormonal changes may trigger symptoms of postpartum depression. New mothers may feel tired after labor and delivery, tired from a lack of sleep or broken sleep patterns, overwhelmed with a new baby, doubts about their ability to be a good mother, stress from changes in the work or home routines, an unrealistic need to be the perfect mom, grief about the loss of who they were before having a baby. They may feel less attractive or have a lack of free time. These feelings are common among new mothers. But postpartum depression is a serious health condition and can be treated. Postpartum depression is not a regular or expected part of being a new mother. But somehow this study says that it's because of the state they live in, because you're not a baby-friendly state based on the percentage of women who have postpartum depression. Huh? Look, West Virginia is never going to be New York, Colorado, or California, thank God. Although there are some who try to pretend it will. But you can't blame the state for the medical condition brought on by the after effects of childbirth. I mean, holy hell. Yeah, because, in the condition of the state that you live in will cause you to have hormone imbalances. Honest to Pete. Since this is a post-Thanksgiving episode, let me share this Thanksgiving-related item. In a desperate bid to be relevant in all things, the West Virginia Explorer ties West Virginia to Thanksgiving Day celebrations because West Virginia has this complex. They think they have to be, there's all these actors from West Virginia, there's all these football players from West Virginia, there's all these baseball players from West Virginia. Mother's Day came from West Virginia, and now, we had a role to play in Thanksgiving Day too. That was not a very graceful transition, I have to admit. I'm tired, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Apparently, former Governor Pierpont, and that's a long time back there, whose claim to the office was officially acknowledged and was recognized by the United States authority as the Governor of Virginia, found cause for Thanksgiving by the people of his state, and especially that part of it which was about to become the state of Kanawha, or actually West Virginia, as the Constitutional Convention finally agreed it should be called. So, see, Pierpont was the governor before we were declared a state. It's basically, that's what that is. And originally there was conversation about the state of West Virginia being named the state of Kanawha, but for whatever reason they decided to call it West Virginia, which is okay. But Pierpont supposedly wrote, in the midst of war and its afflictions, Governor Pierpont in the first Thanksgiving proclamation ever issued in either Virginia or West Virginia, we are more forcibly reminded of our dependence upon divine providence, and while in all we suffer we should own his chastening hand, we should be ready to acknowledge that it is of his mercy that we are not destroyed, and that so many of the blessings of life are preserved to us. Seed time and harvest have not failed, the early and the latter rains have fallen in their seasons, and the toil of the husbandman has been abundantly repaid. It is therefore becoming that, while we earnestly pray that the days of our affliction may be shortened, we should thankfully acknowledge the manifold mercies of which, nationally and individually, we are still the recipients. Now therefore, I, Francis H. Pierpont, Governor of Virginia, do hereby recommend to the good people of the Commonwealth the observance of Thursday the 28th as a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God for the blessings of the year, and of humble and fervent prayer that He will, in more abundant mercy, bring to a speedy and heart-burning and civil that He will, in more abundant mercy, bring to a speedy end the heart-burnings and civil strife which are now desolating our country, and restore to our Union its ancient foundations of brotherly love and just appreciation. And I do further recommend that all secular businesses and pursuits be, as far as possible, suspended on that day. In testimony whereas, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the Commonwealth to be affixed at the city of Wheeling this 14th day of November in the year of our Lord 1861, and of the Commonwealth the 86th, Francis H. Pierpont, by the Governor L.A. Higgins, Secretary of the Commonwealth. Man, oh man, they talked better back then. I mean, so much more formal. Can you imagine the current, oh God, the current governor of West Virginia even trying to read that? I mean, golly gee, baby dog. Oh, the governor we have in West Virginia right now just absolutely, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. He does this hee-haw, hillbilly, hoo-ha talk like everybody that listens to him is an idiot that couldn't finish 6th grade. But anyway, yeah, I am tired. We had a really good Thanksgiving. We didn't have a lot of people at one time. My dad and our friend John came up for dinner, and then my niece and her kids came over for dessert later. So, I mean, I've had more people in the house at one time, but it's just getting harder and harder because of my back to deal with 2 or 3 days worth of cooking, and between the breads and the desserts and then the meal itself, it just, my back locks up, my muscles just tighten up so hard I can't hardly move, and then of course it causes pain in the spine where I've got arthritis, and it just wears me out. And it's not a complaint, it's just kind of a matter of fact. And then, so that was Thursday. Then Friday, I kind of didn't do a whole lot. I mean, I was trying to catch up on a little bit of laundry, and was updating some laptops. Remember, some of you may remember that one of the laptops I had was just not doing very well for me, and so Wayne told his dad, my father-in-law gets laptops for us from the surplus property, and then he upgrades them and stuff. He does great work. But the last one that he gave me, I spilled tea on one and just ruined it. And then, so he gave me another one. I don't do that very often, spill stuff on my computer equipment. But, so he gave me another one, and it just was killing me. It was just so slow, and it just wasn't up to the speed that I needed to do any YouTubes or any podcasts, and it was fine for basic documents and a little bit of email and using Google and stuff, but it just couldn't do what I was demanding of it. So I sent up a couple other ones that were a little more powerful, and I got one of them set up on Friday. I need to set the other one up and replace this one I'm sitting at now. The one I'm sitting at now is a all-in-one unit, an HP all-in-one TouchSmart 9100, and it's like a gigantic tablet's all it is. I mean, but it's fair, but it's almost full because it doesn't have much of a hard drive on it. And I need to take the other laptop and upgrade it well, I say upgrade, I don't mean upgrade. Installed everything I need on it, and get it down here and get this one out of here. And then it's a matter of disposing of all this stuff. But anyway, I got that done. And today I was scheduled to go to the church and help the woman who cleans, because we needed to, one of the candles had spilled and got onto the cushion at the altar. Excuse me. And so there was wax all over the cushion, and she's kind of challenged, so she needs a lot of directions. She would have tore that cushion up. So I was going to meet her over there. We were going to set up the Advent candles and get everything ready for the season. And when I called her, she told me that her father-in-law had passed away yesterday. He was expected to pass, but they didn't think he was going to go like right now. So it was kind of sudden. It was expected, but kind of sudden at the same time. I ended up having to do all that myself, vacuuming the sanctuary and dusting everything down and setting up the Advent wreath and the candles on the Lord's table, and setting out. I mean, back when I was a kid, they did the whole Christmas tree and Santa Claus and the whole thing in the sanctuary for Christmas. But we don't do that anymore. Mostly because we don't think it's appropriate to do. But I spent a lot of time over there. I had to set the ladder out, climb the ladder up, and change the clock. Because we've got a clock on the back wall, and that the pastor can see when he's doing the service. And so it hadn't been changed since daylight savings times, and so to change it. And it was just a long, long morning. Probably about 6 hours I was over there and doing that. And I mostly got everything, I think. I can't think of anything that I missed, but, there's always somebody that's going to say, oh, look, you didn't get that done. But that's okay. I don't answer to them in the long run. I answer to the Lord in the long run. But, so I'm kind of dragging. Things didn't roll out the way they were supposed to, but that happens all the time. I mean, not very few days of mine go the way they're supposed to. But Mr. Holstein did get the little red wheel bearing fixed. Ladies, all I can say to you is you need a man that can fix stuff, or you need a man who makes enough money to pay for things to be fixed. Mr. Holstein has saved us a mountain of money by being able to repair things. And I mean all kinds of stuff, not just cars. But then the problem becomes when people know he's off work. He's scheduled to be off work next week. And people find out that he's going to be off. And then they start saying, oh, we need you to help us with this. We need you to help us with that. And some of you might know the old saying, the cobbler's children have no shoes. Well, that's kind of I've got shoes. Trust me, I got shoes. But what we've got a couple investment properties that need a lot of attention. And, he doesn't want to go into debt to do it, so he wants to, do the work himself. Well, that's fine. But he's not doing the work because he's got everybody else pulling him in other directions. One of the investment properties has been over 3 years, and there's been no progress on repairs, so I can't go get a loan for it, which he doesn't want to do anyway, and I understand. And I can't get a loan for it because my small business isn't stable enough for the amount of the loan would have to be. His employment does, and but he doesn't want to do that. And I get it. I get it. I'm not complaining about that. It's just a statement of now what are we going to do? One day at a time, sweet Jesus. There's a song about that, I did get started a new batch of salad mix over in my little experimental sprouting stall. That first batch died from neglect. Oh, it was sad. I just got too busy to keep up with it. But this round of seeds sprouted nicely. They're up a couple of inches. I do have to keep on them this time though. But the strawberry plants are still doing okay. The ferns are doing wonderful still. And I brought in some gooseberry slips. I don't know if they're making it or not, or if they're gone dormant even with the under the lights. They might be dead. I'll have to wait to see back in the spring, see if they come back around. I'd love for them to make it. I had quite a few, and they just didn't do well. There was like 4 that made it through to early November, and I brought them in and put them under those lights that I've got, the grow lights that I've got, to try to take care of them. But they look dead, so I don't know if they would have gone dormant anyway. But yeah, they're we'll see. Well, I mentioned before that this is the 12th episode of the Holstein House podcast, premiering on the Fountain episode. Jeez, here I go, Fountain Network. I am so sorry, y'all. This is really a sad evening. I'm so tired. Episode 12. I'm actually tickled to death, but you can't tell it because I'm just all over the place. So if you found me on the Fountain Network, I hope you'll boost and clip, if there's anything worth clipping, and share it with all your friends and your followers too. If I bring you some value, which even, if it's, like I said before, if it's a little belly laugh or something, or information that you didn't have, I hope you'll give value in return. So, just for your information, y'all, the movie Christmas at the Greenbrier isn't how most West Virginians celebrate the birth of Christ. And our governor doesn't pay his taxes, fine, or other business-related dues. So, Fox Nation has a film called The Christmas at the Greenbrier. I think there's another one. There might be another version of that out there somewhere, but I saw the advertisement on Fox News Channel. It said Fox Nation's original film, Christmas at the Greenbrier, features a widowed mother named Abby and a former professional football player. The two dated previously, but ended their relationship when Ben's football career got in the way. They unexpectedly reunite years later when visiting the Greenbrier around the holiday season, forcing the duo to figure out if it's true love is still a priority. Honestly, I bet you can't figure out what happens. But I'm going to tell you something. Greenbrier is expensive. It is out there crazy expensive. The Greenbrier, the basement of the Greenbrier used to have a bunker. And at the time that it was built, and it was a poorly kept secret. My grandfather knew it. I think he actually may have worked on it a little bit, but he knew about it because there was a bunker built under the Greenbrier that the president, and I think the Supreme Court, the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, and maybe a handful of other congresspersons were to be evacuated to, should there be a nuclear strike on the United States. Or it didn't have to be nuclear, I don't think. If there was an invasion of some sort and DC was about to fall, that's where they were supposed to go and stay. And it's out in the open now. People talk about it all the time. I think they even give tours and stuff of the bunker under there. But it never was cheap to stay there. Never was cheap to stay there. And now Governor Justice owns it. I think he still owns it. But it's outrageously expensive. So let's see. I think it's day 17. I don't think it's day 16. I'm doing the 21 days of Bitcoin. I think I put my date written down there wrong. Yeah, it's day 17. But I haven't read it. I haven't read day 17 of the 21 days of Bitcoin. So, so far my mind hasn't been changed on it. Day 16's email was titled Bitcoin is Freedom. It isn't just another investment asset
for some, for many people around the world, Bitcoin's just the thing they need in order to live free and fulfilling lives. And they talked briefly about Venezuela, and I appreciated that. That was a good contrast. They talked about that in the 3 years from 2016 to 2019, inflation of Venezuela's bolivar, their money, was like 54 million%. And it made more sense to use the paper money for crafts like origami than to try to do anything else with it, because it was just a nightmare. It says to buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk with cash, you'd have to roll a wheelbarrow full of stacked bills to the grocery store. It's how bad it was. And then they talked about in September of last year, El Salvador becoming the first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. And it's fascinating to me to read about that. But I had to, I had my friend locked up. I just, boom, didn't succeed in my first face-to-face Bitcoin debate. I was teasing the husband, and I said something about moving to El Salvador, and he came back with the Sam Bankman-Fried thing. Nobody knows how much money he had or how much he paid himself, and I mean, my brain just locked. I tried to rationally discuss what Bitcoin was, and I just blew it because I haven't had enough practice doing that. And so even though in my brain I get it, I can't express it yet. So, and even though I know that about the blockchain, I couldn't explain it, and that Bitcoin's not when people talk about Bitcoin, they try to what they do is they say Bitcoin generically, kind of like we say Band-Aid. I need to get a Band-Aid for that. But then you go get the Walmart brand. So so people will say Bitcoin when they mean other crypto. And I know all of that, but my brain just locked up. I just didn't do very well at discussing that, and I got to do a little better than that. So hashtag 21 days of Bitcoin. And you know what? While I was sitting here, The Grinch That Stole Christmas was on television, and honestly, I have the DVD of that. I got it years ago, and I can watch it anytime I want without commercials. But there's just something nostalgic about watching it on television. My heart grows 3 times when I watch it on television. Oh my gosh. It grew 3 times that day. This is going to be kind of short, I think. I don't think this one's going to go a whole hour today. I'm just tired. Look, it's the season of Advent. It's the season of Advent. And Advent it comes from the Latin adventus, meaning coming or visit. And so the Advent season begins 4 Sundays before Christmas and ends on Christmas Eve. Advent is the beginning of the church year for Christians. During Advent, we prepare for and anticipate the coming of Christ. We remember the longing of the Jews for a Messiah and our own longing for and longing need of forgiveness, salvation, and a new beginning. Even as we look back and celebrate the birth of Jesus in a humble stable in Bethlehem, we also look forward to anticipating the second coming of Christ as the fulfillment of all that was promised by his first coming. And okay, you may not believe in Christ. That's fine. You don't have to. There's no law in the United States that says you have to practice a certain religion. I believe in Christ. We have this conversation every time. I believe in Christ. I follow his teaching. I try to follow his teachings. Let me make that clear, because I mess up sometimes. It's human nature. We all do. Even the Pope does. So, But this is the new year for the Christian calendar. The next time Christ comes, it's not going to be as an infant from a virgin birth. It's going to be as a conquering king. And this is my Christmas. This is part of my belief system. You know, I get it that the observance of Christmas is not a dictate of Christ. He didn't tell us, go out there and have a big party and anticipate my birth. And no, he didn't. This is a time of reflection that we have created within the Christian religion over the years. Advent kind of started, you can see little ripples of it about 400 AD, and it progresses and grows and changes. And originally it was from a period in November, St. Martin's feast, I think is what it was. I want to say November 11th, but honestly that may just be because Veterans Day is that day and it sticks in my brain. But it's around that time through Epiphany, which is January 6th. And Epiphany is the period, is the point of revelation to the Gentiles. And in the case of the birth of Christ, it's at the point where the Magi reach him and worship him and acknowledge him as the Son of God. Now, they're not Jews. The Magi are not Jews. So they're Gentile, and they're worshiping the child, probably an 18-month, 2-year-old child at that point, really, as the king, as the Messiah. And that's what Epiphany is. So you see that kind of starting in the 400s. It changes off and on here and there until after the Protestant Reformation in the, 1600s, I think it was. You see all the different major denominations of Christianity kind of getting all their acts together, in that we have a similar calendar, which we begin the Advent season 4 Sundays before Christmas. And then it falls funny sometimes on the print calendar, because December 24th could fall on a Sunday, and that could be the 4th Sunday. So you have the last Sunday of Advent and the birth of Christ happening on the same day, which it's all, it's all symbolic anyway, because it's not news to anybody that Christ wasn't born in the dead of winter. The sheep are not in the field in the dead of winter. Anyway, so Advent is a time of preparation. It's not supposed to be a party. It's not supposed to be a celebration. It's a time of preparation, of building up to the main event. Anticipating, here it's coming, here it's coming. We reflect on some Old Testament, we reflect on John the Baptist, and then we reflect on the Christmas story, from the point where Mary and Joseph find out that she's expecting, to the point where they go to be taxed, to the point where there's no room in the end. And most people understand how it happens. Sorry about that, about the microphone. Do I do Santa Claus? Man, a little bit. I taught my sons that Santa Claus was similar to Disney characters like Snow White and Ninja Turtles and stuff. I mean, they had fun. They believed for a little while in Ninja Turtles. But they also knew that they were cartoon characters. And to me, Santa Claus was too. He was a cartoon character or a Disney character. But the primary reason for Christmas was the birth of Christ. I had a few Santa Claus decorations out, and I still do a little bit. But that's not the primary reason that I celebrate Christmas. And yes, I know, that, December 25th and the Druids and the Wiccans and all these other pagan religions and the Catholic Church drawing them in and celebrating. I know all of that. I've read the books. I get it. When you grow up, you understand these things, and you either accept them or you don't. And I can't change what the Catholic Church did way back when. And I'm okay with keeping the calendar the way it is. I understand that it's not exactly that way. I also understand that the Earth is a lot older than, what's it supposed to be, like 6,000 years old or something like that. I get it. I have my own understanding of how science and religion can actually both be correct. Because a day to God can be 1,000 years. And 1,000 years like a day. We have no idea how he actually measures time. Yeah. The night and the day. The sunrise and the sunset were the first day. Well, okay. I don't know how long it took the sun to set. Have we always been on the 365 and a quarter days, from the beginning of the earth? I don't know. Maybe there were periods of times that the earth didn't spin at the speed it does now. I don't know. And I mentioned, when the kids were young, I mentioned that there was really a St. Nicholas in real life, but he didn't have flying reindeer. So I tried to let them have some Christmas fun while teaching them the real meaning of the season. I did sign some gifts from Santa, but they knew better. But it was fun. And I signed gifts to my husband from Santa. He knows better, but it's still fun. I signed gifts to my husband from the dogs and the cats. He knows better, but it's still fun. But I'm going to stop there. And I hope you have a great weekend. And, again, I'm a follower of Christ. Technically, I'm a member of the Methodist Church, but I'm first a follower of Christ. And when I discuss religion or my beliefs, it's as a speaker. I'm speaking as a follower of Christ and not as a Methodist Church member. Oh, don't forget, if you're traveling through or to West Virginia along the turnpike, consider looking at the Holstein House, either at robinholstein.com or on Airbnb. If you decide to book and you mention that you heard it on the podcast, I'll come up with a way to add some value to your stay. Maybe some chocolates, some good chocolates. There's Hall's chocolates. Oh my gosh, they're great. They're made in West Virginia. Or some homemade cookies, or I don't know, sourdough bread, sourdough pancake. We'll figure out something. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, we might give you a little discount to do that. So we'll wrap for episode 12 of the Holstein House podcast. Now, twice the Holstein House podcast has been on the top 50 of the Fountain FM network. The first time was on November the 18th when I reached number 46. And then again last week, November 24th, when I was number 47th. Tickled me plumb to death, y'all. I love you for helping me achieve that. It may only last a day or a few hours. I don't know. I know that when I looked, it was there. I don't know how long it had been there, so I don't know how often that ranking changes. But before I go, let me share my supporters. Euphrosynos, a total of 7,695 sats. For episode 11, it was broken up into a couple of comments related to Bitcoin and drag queens. And then, you guys that come up with these really weird names, and then I have to try to pronounce them. I think this one is Diesel Ragi. It's DIZEL RAIGI. Boosted 95 sats for episode 10. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, your continued patience while I stumble through, and especially today. Oh gosh, if I have to say I'm tired one more time. But, I've already said it, and it's so true. We premiered on the Fountain Network. If you found me on Fountain, I hope you'll boost, clip, and share with all your friends and followers. And if I bring you value, I hope you'll give me value. I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving. Awesome Thanksgiving. And if you're traveling, be safe. Wear your seatbelts. Yeah, I know, the law says, but look, it's just smart. It's just the smart thing to do. Wear your seatbelts because you should, not because they make you. And there's people out there that love you, and they don't want you to be like thrown through the windshield or something. So take care. Hopefully we'll get back on a regular routine next week. Normally this would have went out on Thursday, and I didn't get to it. Thursdays was just too much going on. So take care, and we will see you again really soon.
So, there you have it. Post your comments, do all that boosting, liking, sharing, thumbs up, and stuff that helps spread the word and poke the algorithms. Follow me on most of the big social media platforms, and look for my name, Robin Holstein, or Holstein House. Till next time, bye-bye.